Hello and welcome to another episode of Chasing Excellence. My name is Patrick Cummings, and as always, I am joined by Ben Bergeron. Every week here on the show, we dedicate some time to exploring how we can live a life of better health and increased fulfillment. We answer your questions about the 5 factors of health, dive deep on living a life of excellence, and explore the strategies and frameworks to help us chase what truly matters. Thank you so much for joining us this week. How the heck are you, Ben?
Doing great. Thanks, Patrick.
We were just joking a little bit. We are not in the same room. We are recording remotely for this week, which we have not done for quite a while. It's kind of funny.
I just realized I was writing a note, and as I write, my
your camera jumps back and forth.
Yeah, so people that are listening have no idea what I'm talking about,
but there's not an earthquake across New England, is what you're saying.
Correct. Yeah. We're going remote. Yeah.
We're going remote. We may be doing this as we get into the summer, because summers get super busy with family and kids and vacations and whatnot. But we'll see how it goes. Before we get into this,
actually, like the funny remote thing. So this, yeah. I mentioned this to you when we were chatting last week, not on the podcast, that I for the first time in forever, and I feel like this is just like it's one of the prerequisites. I'm reading Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek.
You did mention that, yes, and
it's crazy because the whole premise is basically like how to convince your boss to work remotely.
Yes.
That's like the whole thing. It's like that's the book.
Big part of it.
It's like, I mean, right. It's a big part. It's not the book, but it's a big, big part. And that's just, for most people, is not a challenge anymore. It's just the accepted norm. It's kind of weird.
How do you feel about the remote work now? We haven't talked about it in a while, but like as a person who has a team, and
I hate it.
Like where do you land? You still hate it? Yeah.
I hate it. Yeah. You know this about me. It's like, it's crazy. So, I just think it's such a miss. I get it for people that don't find fulfillment in their work. It makes total sense. It makes complete sense. You want to spend as little time there as possible. But for people that work is a part of their fulfillment, and if teams matter, which I believe they do, like you can't create a team in a virtual environment. I shouldn't say you can't. It's way more challenging, and I think you're going to come up many, many steps short of the pinnacle if it's in a remote environment.
Yeah,
like we talk about the days when you come down here and we chat, and it's totally. It's so much more. There's if you can be in person, it's no one remotes their family work and family life. You know, it's because it's not as impactful.
Yeah. All right. What have we got coming up this episode? We've got listener questions about knowing when you're complaining versus standing up for yourself. We've got helping an aging parent eat better, stepping into a leadership position, and more. Our workout's going to be a conversation about chasing goals that are hard to quantify. And we will answer a Hopper Talk question from a listener about who's on our apocalypse team. And you're very excited about this. And so I look forward to hearing your answer. Before we do, just a reminder, we are well into our current 30-day challenge, which is we are aiming for 300,000 steps over the course of 30 days. That is, for those of you not super good at math, 10,000 steps a day on average. I'm super curious how this is going. When we first presented it, you said you might once or twice walk to work. I'm curious if you've done that yet.
No, I haven't, because it hasn't been necessary at all.
So you've been just getting it in.
So wait for this, Patrick. I updated my phone. I updated my phone. So I have
got a new phone.
No, I don't need to do updates. I don't believe in updates.
I know this. Yes.
Because the conspiracy theorist is like, they're going to download a virus to my phone. Now everyone's really understanding the real Ben. Like, this is the weird side of me. But I finally, for the first time, I have a 10. I don't even know what that is, but like a 10. I think we're on 13 or 14 now. And
I think it's 14 is the latest and 15 is coming out.
So I have a 10, and people make fun of me because I have a 10 because I don't think 9 exists anymore. And I just updated for the first time of having a 10. And there's a fitness tracker on it, which I didn't realize.
Yes. There's a pedometer built in. Yeah.
So the challenge that I've had is, it's so ironic because the last conversation we had was about how your phone should have a home and a job. Yeah. Well, now my phone doesn't have a home because it has to be with me all the time. So it's like,
you want to get your credit.
Yeah, I want to get my credit. But this has been my favorite challenge we've ever done. I love this challenge, especially with that fitness app that tracks your steps. Yeah. So it's going really, really well. I'm having to walk. Like, I don't need to walk to work because that's 3.5 miles, and 10,000 steps you need to accomplish like 4.5. I think is about what it is.
Something like that. Yeah, somewhere in that range.
So I walk half a mile before I leave the house. I try to get like 2,000 to 3,000 steps in before I leave the house. And if it's not raining or bad weather, I end up playing basketball or soccer with the kids when I get home from work. So between that and normal walking throughout the day, I'm really close to the 10.
Yeah.
I've
noticed that too. I was just thinking about that the other day, that if we were doing this challenge in the Northeast, like January, February, it's a lot harder. And that's actually when I kind of started playing with this, and it was a lot harder. But to your point, like an hour outside after dinner, you can catch up quite a bit. And then I think you're spot on with adding, and I'm guessing it's like a 20-minute walk in the morning before you head out. To me, that's like between those two things are usually enough.
So but I am like making, just like anything, I'm competitive and I want to make sure I get it in. So there's been one day after I was sick. So I missed one day because I was really sick. The second day when I was getting better, I ended up having just like when the kids were upstairs going to bed, I went downstairs and I just walked laps around the house. So I didn't want to leave the house because the kids were all there. It's a little bit weird. Like, where's daddy going? But I just went downstairs, kind of like pretended I was like cleaning up, and I just walked around. The other weird one was at my kids' soccer games, I walk laps around the field while it's going on, which is awesome. That's what this should be about, right? Instead of just sitting still, like take advantage of the walk. Another one, which is super cool, is it rained here all day last Saturday. So coming home from my kids' soccer games, I was like, like it's pouring rain. I'm not going to get out and walk. I don't want to go in the garage and do it on the treadmill. I was like, I'm going to drop me off 1.5 miles from home. And between walking around the kids' soccer game and walking 1.5 miles from home, I got my 10,000 steps in by like noon. It was like,
love it.
So I think this is something that I'm going to incorporate. I think this is one that's it's what you want to happen with challenges, right? Is you go towards like the nutrition challenge and you do Whole30, right? You don't eat anything besides like spinach and, but that's not supposed to be what you do forever. You're supposed to just raise the bar up to a new standard. So when you slide back, you have a new norm. And I really like this a lot. I understand how it fits into the spectrum of longevity and health really, really well. We're big into frameworks. My framework for fitness for health is range of motion, CrossFit, 10,000 steps.
Love that.
Like you have those three things, like we're good. And not necessarily high intensity interval training. I mean, CrossFit, because if you're not lifting the weights, then you have to add in resistance training. So it's kind of like, but the 10,000 steps, you're moving. It's like if sitting is the new smoking, you do realize how much we're sitting. It's a lot.
I agree. Yeah. We'll move on from this because we can talk about it more when we actually wrap this up. But the one thing you just mentioned that I think is really worth remembering, which is like this idea of challenges and challenging yourself. The other thing it also does, other than sort of like push you, and then like you can, when you come back to, quote unquote normal, hopefully you're a little bit further, but it actually just a lot of times just shows you what is actually possible.
Right.
We think about like 800-gram challenge. It's like, well, that sounds really hard. I have to eat 800 until you do it for a month. And you're like, that actually wasn't as hard as I thought. 10,000 steps. Gosh, that is really hard. If I just look at myself today and say, I'm at 4,000, how am I possibly going to, and then you figure it out. You figure out the one or two little places where it's not nearly as complicated or hard or whatever as you thought it was. And then suddenly it's like, that's no longer a barrier. The belief is no longer the barrier. And now it's just about taking the actions.
To your point, though, this in the winter would be, in the Northeast, would be harder. And also, again, makes you realize the opposite, not only the opposite of like, wow, this is easy, but it also shows you like, whoa, I'm actually pretty darn far away from the suggestion, which happens like when you start tracking protein, right? You're like, I eat enough protein. Yep. You're like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. I'm pretty far away from that.
Agreed. Yeah. Totally. All right. Let us get into our warm-up. We start each episode with your questions about the 5 factors of health, those few fundamental behaviors that most positively affect our health, or our performance, vitality, and our longevity. Those 5 factors: how we eat, how we move, how we think, how we connect, and how we recover. First question is from Kat. It's in our move category. I've been a member for almost 3 years. I've been a member of a CrossFit gym for almost 3 years now and love the community. The owner recently sold the box to a member, which is great. However, the new owner has added a paid barbell club instead of a CrossFit class at $725. in the morning on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, which are usual class that I go to. I don't finish work in time. Sorry, that's PM, 7:25 PM. I don't finish work in time to make the earlier class in the evening, and I find the 6 a.m. class don't work for me. There are no classes added after the Barbell Club 2. I don't want to leave my affiliate because I love everything about the community, but this new timetable doesn't work for me. Are there any solutions you can think of that I might be missing, might be worth adding? I'm based in the Scottish Highlands, so the next closest box is a 30-minute drive. Perhaps that's the best option. I have other commitments on Tuesdays, and the gym is closed on Sunday. That leaves only Tuesday and Saturday that I am able to attend, and my fear my training won't be effective.
Okay. You read through that really fast, so I'll try and grab one.
Yeah. Okay, go for it. It's just a longer question.
The way it goes is owner is pulling away a CrossFit class and adding in a weightlifting class. She doesn't want to do the weightlifting class. What do I do? Because none of the other times work for me. Okay, she proposed one, which is, try and find another gym. I get it's 30 minutes away, but for a lot of people, it's worth it. To find that thing. But she also said she loves her community, which makes sense. Here's what my take on this would be, is if you love your community and you're feeling like this, you're probably not the only one that feels this way. So go and talk to the affiliate owner and just not as a will you please change this? Just let her know what your struggles are, what your challenges are, and that you don't want to leave. You love this place. You're not going to do the barbell stuff because it doesn't fit with you because of, you don't have to explain it. Just it's not for me. And put it in his lap a little bit and just let him know, because my guess is that this owner feels like this is a really good move for the community, and maybe it's not. The customer isn't always right, but you should always listen to the customer is how it goes. Henry Ford's saying, if I listened to my customers, I would have built them a faster horse. So the customer doesn't know necessarily what's right for the development, but you got to listen to them with the feedback of what you're doing and then make the sound decisions off of that. Henry Ford was smart enough to know that there was a better way to get people from point A to point B. And that's what he was trying to do with that. Mm-hmm. We're trying to get people as affiliate owners fitter, stronger, faster, live longer, have more productive lives, lose weight, all that stuff. Maybe this feedback would be beneficial for them. So now you have two options. Try the new gym. Second one is talk just a heart to heart and let them know how much you love this community, you want to stay, but you're going to have challenges with it in the new format. And then the third one is, this is one of the reasons that we created CompTrain, is you could do this in your basement, in your garage, at a local gym on your own, and then you have the virtual community of the CompTrain platform. So not trying to plug that in there, other than this is honestly the reason it exists, is we feel really proud and confident of the programming and the results that we've created over the 15 years that we've worked with these really high-level athletes. And we parsed it down for people that want to train at all these different levels. And it's super simple. You don't have to go I'm a beginner, I'm an intermediate. It's do you have 30 minutes to train today, an hour to train, 2 hours to 3 hours, and the program will self-adjust for you. So it's a really simple way to do this. 60% of our users don't train at a gym. They do this at home. So my first thing in order would be talk to the affiliate owner. Second one would be go visit the other gym, see if it's a possible fit. And the third one would be the CompTrain platform.
Yep. And I'll only add one because it makes me think about my early days of CrossFit, which is our gym, CrossFit Boston, was also not open on Sundays. And she says that theirs isn't. And so we just got a bunch of people and met in a park and just grabbed some dumbbells and just did a group workout on cool. Sunday morning. And it was just it was really cool. We didn't feel like we were missing anything or lacking something. It was just a fun opportunity to hey guys, we'll be over there on Sunday morning if anyone wants to join us. And it could be a cool way to not only get another workout in, get another workout in with some intensity, but also make some friends and meet some other folks at the gym as well.
Yeah, and that doesn't need to be just on that Sunday. That could be on the Tuesday, Thursday, totally. Those days. Yeah. Yep. I don't know how available that's going to be in Scotland in 8 months of the year, but
Fine point. Fine point. All right. Well, let's jump into our think category. This is from Alex. I do my best to live by never whine, never complain, be grateful, and hold high integrity in your work.
Love that.
I'm struggling now because I'm faced with a tough situation where my employer has severely violated our contract and isn't paying me what I'm due. Half of me thinks never whine, never complain, be grateful, and move on, while the other half of me thinks respond by standing up for yourself. A lawsuit would be unpleasant and harm their business, but appears to be my only path to fair treatment. How can we balance stoicism and gratitude with needing to take extreme action that might not be pleasant?
Yeah. Nothing in that what we're proposing in terms of our philosophy, our approach, our prescription to life has anything to do with easy at all. There's going to be the hard, in order to have the fulfilled life, there's going to be the bumps in the road, the hurdles we need to navigate, and the hard conversations. That to me is the pursuit of excellence. And Stoicism even talks about it. One of their core virtues is justice. And it's what they mean by is like what's the person's name that's wrote? Is there not?
Where did we go? Sorry. Alex.
And Alex's value set is integrity. Well, integrity is doing the right thing regardless. And that's regardless of how challenging or uncomfortable it might be. And the right thing to do in this situation is to stand up for yourself. It's not to be passive. This is what a lot of people get mixed up with the stoic lifestyle, or the way that, we kind of talk about things and just like, let it go, roll off your back. It's okay, bro. Don't get emotional about it. It's like, those are two separate things. It's not don't take action. It's if your flight's delayed, I'm not saying just like, dude, be okay with it. Like, so you missed your daughter's wedding because your flight was late. It's okay. No, it's like, don't get caught up in the emotional response of what you can't control. But what you can control, lean into it with everything you can without judging every little thing along the way. And this is what we get caught up in. This is why he's afraid of this. Can we navigate these challenging circumstances without getting emotionally wrapped up into them? That's the challenge. This is when you are able to bring your best self to it. So if you're an athlete and you're all worried about like how you're going to perform and what you're going to do and all, you're never going to be able to bring your best self to this. It's, I was I was driving the car the other day and we were listening to kind of like some throwback music, and Eminem's Lose Yourself came on, that like awesome song that like really kind of catapulted him. And where I am, we are, all of us that listen to this in this journey, the song took on totally different meaning for me. When you listen to it, what he's saying is, I used to get so caught up in the outcome of this being on stage. I used to like, what are they going to think of me? And I would get tongue-tied and I would freeze and I would not be able to do anything. I would throw up in Mom's Spaghetti and like all the lyrics in the beginning of the song. And then he's saying, lose yourself in the moment. That's the course. Lose yourself in the music in the moment. Lose yourself in the music in the moment. And I think what he's realizing is, like, as a performer, it's a flow state. When you are not constantly wrapped up in what is this business partner going to think of me? And where am I going to win? And you're just doing it for the virtue of doing it the right way and allowing your best to flow out of you. This is when, if we could all be there. And I know I felt both sides of it being on stage presenting. When I'm on stage and I'm like, what's my next line? Like, do they like what I'm saying? Do they like, it's a horrific experience. It's terrible. This is why people hate public speaking. But I've also been on stage where I just let it go and I lose myself in the moment and just going out. This is what we want to be able to do. Don't fear public speaking. Don't step away from it. Don't fear a potential lawsuit. If it's the right thing to do, do it. Now, if you can't get yourself to the point where you don't think that's possible, then it's a possibility. Then we should have that conversation of like, is it worth it? Because if you're going to be emotionally distraught, stressed, it's going to have ramifications in other aspects of your life, whether it's health or relationships or your business, then that's a really good conversation. But this is what we're chasing. This is what we're challenging ourselves to become, is somebody that can handle the sunshine, the drizzle, and the rainstorm when it comes, and we can navigate this thing as well as anything else. And it doesn't affect us from a performance or a stress or anxiety perspective. We just go at any of these things with perspective. If we were a grain of sand on a beach, we'd be a really big player. But we're not even close to that. What's the perspective of this? Where in the totality of the lifespan of the universe does this little moment, you and this business partner, where does this sit in that? And it's nothing. It's a nothing. It's nothing. And that doesn't disempower. It does the opposite. It fully empowers you to bring your best self to this, because they probably aren't going to be able to come with that level of calmness, that level of integrity, that level of virtue, that level of, in the best way, dispassionate about the outcome. And when you bring that to the negotiating table, you have so much more power than the opposite.
Very good. Next question is in our eat category. It's from Colin. Last January, both my parents became really sick and were both hospitalized for about a month. My father passed away, but my mother was able to recover and has been home for close to a year. Through the sickness, she lost a considerable amount of weight and strength. She has always been very physically active in terms of gardening, cutting grass, raking leaves, etc. during the summer, and then shoveling and using an elliptical during the winter. She continued that this past year, but I fear she isn't getting enough nutrients, as it's hard to cook for one person. She also has not regained all of the strength that she lost. What are some simple tips for cooking healthy meals for one person? Also, what are quick ways to improve strength besides resistance band training and bodyweight movements?
Okay. What are some simple tricks for cooking for this one person?
Yep.
So, first off, a little perspective. It's easier to cook for one person than it is for 30. So you can flip that right there. So they said it's really challenging to cook for one person. It's the opposite. It's actually very simple to cook for one person. It's really hard to cook for, a volunteer group of 6,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. I think it's probably just different because if I had to take a wild guess, she probably was at least used to cooking for multiple people for a very long time. And so now she's responsible for nobody but herself.
Yeah. Here's the way I would start. It's kind of, I think we talked about this already on this, but I would start with protein. For somebody that's getting older, getting more frail, needs the nutrients. When we had Chris Kresser on, we talked about nutrient densities of food and how nutrient dense meat is, contrary to what everyone thinks. It's fruits and vegetables. It's actually organ meats, and fruits and vegetables aren't bad, but I would actually start with the protein and get protein in at every meal. Now, the optimal kind of way I think about this is let's take a small, medium, and large person. This is really simple. Small, medium, large. If you're a small person, you should be getting 30 grams of protein at every meal. 3 meals a day. That's it. So you end up with 90. Okay. But forget about the numbers. Right? A serving is about 30 grams, right? So if you have, it's a big serving. So a big burger, a big piece of salmon, a big chicken breast, 4 eggs, that's 30 grams. So we're looking to get that at 3 times throughout the day. Now, if you're a medium person, you want 40 grams. So that's just a little bit more. If you're a big person, you want 50 grams. It's and this is what we were talking about at the beginning with these challenges. Oh, that's kind of eye-opening. I didn't realize if I'm a big person, I need to be getting upwards of 6 eggs for breakfast.
Yep.
Yeah. If you're having 3 meals a day and you break that down, that's, an egg has 7 grams of protein. That's 7 times whatever I said, 6. There's only 42. You need 7 eggs. You need 49. So that's what I would do, is make sure that protein is happening. Now, this is kind of weird because I'm the Whole Foods guy, but realistically, from like a nutrient deficiency standpoint, for somebody that I know, like I feel like I know this case study. They're not eating a lot anyway. They're having a hard time cooking. So just focus on that one thing. Then from a eating and cooking perspective, the message is protein. And then from there, if you can, get a blood test and figure out what truly are the nutrient deficiencies and supplement. That's like, because it's the easiest way to do it. Otherwise, you're just like stabbing. I think I need more vegetables because we need more, vitamin C and A and D, and we need more calcium and zinc and magnesium. It's like, figured like if it's an extreme case, which is what I put this as an extreme case where you're worried. Like this isn't you or me, Patrick, where we're just trying to like, if you're worried, like you would get a test done. And it's the same type of thing. Like I would get a test done and then I would supplement with those things. Then from there, I would go into the real easy eating things, which is make salads and stir fries.
Yep.
It's like the easiest thing ever. Like there's one bowl or one plate, one cooking thing. It's just the easiest thing. Throw any vegetables and any protein in a big skillet, you got to stir fry. Throw any vegetables and any meat in a bowl raw, and you have a salad. It's like, it's the easiest way to get the most nutrient dense foods that you possibly can.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's really important. I don't think we think about like building meals around protein for some reason. I don't really know like if I have
it's because we've been like pounded in the face with like vegetarian, like fruits and vegetables. And that it's not wrong. That's in terms of fruits and vegetables versus processed foods, not wrong at all. But I mean, there's a lot, like if you're listening, there's so much about retaining muscle mass. When I say listening, like to podcasts and the thought leaders and there's so much understanding now how much muscle mass affects us as we get older. And yes, like muscle mass fuels, the body, like there's like awesome things that muscles do from like a metabolism standpoint. It's really, really beneficial to have muscle on you. But then the other one is movement requires muscle. If you want to stay active and moving as you get older, you need the muscle. Now it's going to atrophy every year after, I think it's age 35, maybe 40, but every year it's going away. So if you're not combating that, you're just playing the atrophy game. So that kind of leads into the second part of his question, which was, what are some quick, easy fixes or something?
Strength, yeah, some ways to improve strength besides resistance bands training and body weight movements.
Okay, so the first one is to really increase it. There's no easy ones. There isn't. But from a simplistic understanding, he's nailing it, which is it takes resistance. So that's what it is. It's like, now, whether it's bands or, 5-10 pound dumbbells or lifting up water jugs, like, CrossFit had people getting off the couch in the 70s living rooms from a sitcom. You just need resistance. And that's what builds muscles, is resistance. Mm-hmm. And you can do that in any form or fashion. Bands are certainly a great way because they're, I think of bands as like backcountry skiing.
Oh, you have to explain that.
In backcountry skiing, most people don't put themselves in bad situations because they need to hike up and till they get, and as they hike up, it gets steeper and steeper and steeper. And eventually you go like, this is kind of freak. I'm not going to go. That's what bands do. Bands start with zero resistance. And as you go up higher and higher and higher, it gets harder and harder and harder. So it's basically like you stop when you are uncomfortable, like by default. Whereas when you, when I shouldn't say backcountry, I say like boot packing, like hiking, like earning your turns. Whereas like weightlifting is more like getting dropped on top of a mountain by a helicopter. You have no idea what you're getting into. You put 135 pounds on the bar and you're like, all right, let's take it for a ride. Let's see what happens. And it's just like, that's why bands have become popular in the rehabilitation setting, because they're super safe. and in special populations, because it's hard to put yourself in a tough situation. Can you accomplish with bands what you can accomplish with a barbell? No. Mm-hmm. Do they have their place? Yes, absolutely.
Got it. All right, moving on. Recover bucket from Mackenzie. How do your families tackle simple but time-consuming and necessary household tasks like the laundry, house cleaning, grocery shopping, dishes, etc.? My husband and I have 3 young kids, and I'm currently staying home with the baby. I feel like I'm on a rat wheel on the endless, mundane household tasks. I put this in the recover bucket. It's an odd question.
No, this is.
But I put it in the recover bucket.
This is Heather writing in a question under a code name.
Because a lot of times, like these are the things that take up those gaps in the day, the gaps in our responsibilities that make it feel like we never can take a moment, take a breath, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to explain why this is in the recover bucket.
Okay. Was it Audrey? Is that her name was? Am I just making that up?
Mackenzie.
Oh, Mackenzie. I totally made that up. Wow. That's amazing. Okay. Mackenzie, sympathies and relate. Get it.
Yep.
When Heather just had knee surgery, terrible. I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast.
We didn't at all, no.
Oh my God. She just slipped on some wet mud and slipped down this hill and tore her meniscus in 2 places, tore her quad muscle so badly, it cracked her kneecap in half. So she looked down, her kneecap was on the side of her leg. Long story short, she has a scar that's 4 inches long across her knee and really big surgery. So she was completely laid up for a week, and Ben played Mr. Mom. Dude, what I do is so much easier. I'm not joking at all.
I believe you 100%.
There is crumbs and sticky stuff everywhere. Like if you're always picking up crumbs and wiping up something sticky.
Yeah.
And then the laundry thing is out of control. It's endless. Like it's endless. So, and then like the making the beds, I get it. Like Mackenzie, I get it. Okay. So what would, if I would try to take some of the principles that we use in this, like in this podcast, what we talk about all the time, which is if we want to chase what truly matters, it doesn't mean that you just have to like let go of all the routine and the mundane. It's, yes, we want to be doing the really, really impactful things, but everyone's still got to brush their teeth. Everyone's still got to put gas in their car. Well, maybe not so much that, plug in their car, but everyone's got to do these mundane routine things as well. Answer emails. We're all doing it. So how do we do that most effectively and efficiently? And some things that we've talked about before, and, Patrick could probably answer this question better than I could, because he's more Patrick and Dan are like the deep work and the dial in routines people. But the first thing, it goes into scheduling and batching. So what ends up happening is, because there are these endless things of, and there's 12.5 of them, from the dishes to cleaning up, to preparing lunches, to doing the laundry, to making the beds, I get it. Like there's so many of these things, they compound on top of each other, and the switching cost between them is incredibly expensive, and we don't get a whole lot done. So the way to get through that, and it's the same thing in the work environment, because in the work environment, you have to answer your emails, you have to do your daily things, you have to go through this, you have to have these meetings, you have to, and the switching cost is brutal. So it's a matter of, can you, the answer is really, I believe it's twofold. It's either you schedule and batch, or you don't do it at all, meaning you outsource, you get somebody else to do it. So let's do the scheduling and the batching one first, which is you create the routine, which is, and you might realize like you're used to doing the laundry or whatever, let's fill in the blank. You're used to doing X every day and it takes you 15 minutes. Well, could you do that instead of 5 days a week for 15 minutes? Could you do that twice a week for 30 minutes? And that's a huge time saving. And then also what happens when you do that is, when that's happening and things don't come in and interrupt in the middle of it. So if we know that we record this podcast Thursdays at 1:00, I'm not scheduling anything during that time. And that's the time that we do this thing. Well, if you know that you do fill in your thing at this time on this day or these days, that's when you do those things. You're not going to multitask during it. So you're not going to do that. You're not going to do the laundry and the dishes and try to make lunches. You're going to do that thing and that thing really well. And you're going to do it till it's done and it's off the table. You don't have to go look at it again for 3 days. I get that there are some things that happen on a daily basis, but are those things that we can batch together and do them well? No multitasking. So that's like the first place I would take us. It takes some level of discipline and executive function to be able to like prioritize what is the right place. And really you have to just like pop your head out of the crazy rough ocean that you're in. And you have to get a bird's eye view of like, okay, there's a calm spot over there. I'm going to go over there, sit down and see if I can kind of figure out how to navigate the storm a little bit. Because if you just keep yourself in it, you're going to be in it. And I've had to do that several times in my own business when it's so crazy. It's like, okay, it's the craziest time. The best thing you can do is actually take half a day off from work and get completely out of it and work on the business, not in it.
Yeah.
This is the whole thing. It's like we're just caught in this cycle, this repetitive cycle of I'm in the business, I'm in the business, I'm in the business, and the household's a business. Okay. The other way to do it is you pop yourself out of it completely, which is you figure out what you can outsource. So can you get somebody to deliver your groceries? Most people can now, depending on where you live, instead of going to the grocery store. Can you outsource the laundry? You'd be shocked. It's not, you can do that. And whether they fold them or not, like you can outsource laundry services. Can you get somebody to come in and clean the house every other week so you're not doing it every single day? Maybe it's like the bathrooms and the kitchen appliances, whatever it might be. And people go, no way, couldn't afford it. No way, no how. Well, reading the Tim Ferriss, like his recommendation is you got to know what you're worth on an hourly basis. Yeah. And if you can outsource it for cheaper than what you're worth on an hourly basis, it's asinine not to do this, because not only is it, quote, cheaper for someone else to do this, but you then have the freedom and the more time to create more valuable stuff. And I get this for a stay-at-home parent. This is more challenging because it's hard to put a number on what they're actually worth. But I did this from a really early in my career. I understood the value of this pretty quickly. I'm going to steal it from Tim Ferriss. He has a really simple way to do this. Take your annual salary, half it, and drop to zero. Meaning, if you make $40,000 a year, half it, $20,000 a year, that's $20 an hour. Super. I love that. So you make $100,000 a year, half it, 50, you're worth $50 an hour. So if you, let's say people are making, $70,000 a year, whatever like that kind of like spot is. If you're making $70,000 a year, cut that in half, 35. Well, you can hire a lot of people to do a lot of work for under $35 an hour. A lot. Certainly all of the cleaning, all the household stuff, including cooking meals. So it's just a matter of understanding what you're worth. If you're like, no, like I'm not worth 10 grand a year. Okay. Then do it yourself. And now you're back to that first bucket. Prioritize it, batch it, schedule it.
There's something, I think it makes me think about 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman. And he's got this is the only thing I'm going to add to what you just said, because it's a little bit different, but it's worth thinking about, which is something he talks about that he calls the paradox of limitations. I'm just going to read a little quote from it. It says, the more you try to manage your time with the goal of achieving a feeling of total control and freedom from the inevitable constraints of being human, the more stressful, empty, and frustrating life gets. But the more you confront the facts of finitude instead and work with them rather than against them, the more productive, meaningful, and joyful life becomes. I don't think the feeling of anxiety ever completely goes away. We're even limited, apparently, in our capacity to embrace our limitations, but I'm aware of no other time management technique that's half as effective as just facing the way things truly are. And I thought of that, and I bring that up because there is a degree to which we just have to accept that we are going to be busy, that we are going to feel overwhelmed. The goal is not to get past overwhelmed, right? Because we've talked about the goal is not to solve problems so you don't have any problems anymore, right? The goal of these things is not to someday not have any laundry left. Okay, sure, sign me up for that, right? I'm ready for that. But
you're just gonna, a little bit of new problems are going to emerge.
Right.
We fill them in.
Show up.
New business. Yeah, exactly right.
And so the goal, a little bit to what we were talking about before with the a couple questions ago with should I create a lawsuit? Should I sue? The point is actually, can I just be okay knowing that I will finish the laundry today and there will be more tomorrow? Well, can I just be okay that the kids' room is going to be messy for a little bit? And even when I clean it, they're going to come back and they're going to make it messy again. That is actually the place we need to get to. And then systems, yes. Batching, yes. Hire out some of it, yes. But if we never get to the place where we accept that this is what it is, then we're always going to be looking for how can I do that thing better?
I love that.
So again, that was 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman. Yeah. All right, Mackenzie, hope that was helpful. Last question we've got in our warm-up is in our Connect bucket from Russ. I'm taking over as head coach and GM of a 2-year-old affiliate, and I'm looking, CrossFit affiliate, I should say, and I'm looking for any books, podcasts that offer guidance when stepping into a new leadership position or strategies to build trust.
Okay, I feel, I can't not say this one, but I wrote a book about this.
That was a very long pause for you to decide.
Well, it's because I've already plugged CompTrain. It's I don't want this to feel like it's but this is literally what the book is.
I give you permission to talk about literally. We haven't talked about it in a year and a half. So,
yeah. It's unlocking potential. It's about, it's done through the prism of a story of opening up a CrossFit gym. And it's how to get people to trust you so you can unlock the potential of your team to create the vision of what you want to create in a business. So I could give a bunch of other book recommendations, but that's the one for this person. That's literally is the written for you. Okay. Other ones though, there's plenty of books. There's plenty of great books on, we've had Covey on ours, which his book was, thank you. Yes, I'm gonna say it starts with trust. The Speed of Trust, which is about leadership and how it starts with trust, which is what the question is asking. And then there's, the other 7 Habits has to do with that. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People is that. John Maxwell's material is that. The Levels of Leadership. Even there's a lot of good military books that are about this, the trust aspect. It's Your Ship is a great one. Team of Teams is a really good one. There's another really good one that I'm blanking on the other one that's in my head, but those are some resources.
Amazing. Lots of books about trust. Is trust he's asking about it, but that seems to me to be the kind of the core most important thing to do in his position is to figure out how to build and
but it's not trust for trust's sake, right? It's trust to create so you can create something productive, because it can sound, it's too fuzzy. It's another book about trust. I'm kudos to him for asking. First off, it's phenomenal, to understand that in order to create a business, it starts with the psychology of human beings. That's a phenomenal place to start with. It's not just trust in terms of do you believe me? It's not that. It's a much deeper level.
It's not trust I'm not going to lie to you.
Yes.
It's trust we're in this together, and I got your back and you got mine.
Yeah. It's it's much more deeply embedded, more ambiguous, because it's hard to get do you believe that I'm telling you the truth? That level of trust is kind of easy to earn. The next one, do you trust that I truly have your back? Do you trust that where you want to go is where I want to go? Do you trust that this is the right place for you? Do you trust that you belong here? Do you trust that we're willing to empower you and help you grow? That's a much different conversation.
It's interesting what we talked about very briefly at the top of this, which is just remote work and like that's actually the thing. Like there's lots of things that get lost or missed, but I don't know that there's anything more than that deeper level of trust.
So well said.
If you just see somebody just on the screen and you don't know them, you can't trust them.
Totally.
Yeah. All right. We're going to take a quick break, then we're going to be back with our workout. We've got a question from a listener about how to achieve more subjective goals. So stay tuned. We're brought to you this week with support from the good folks at BetterHelp. Go to betterhelp.com/excellence to learn more about how online therapy can be convenient, flexible, and on your schedule. It's so easy to get caught up in what everyone else needs from you and never take a moment to think about what you need from yourself. But when we spend all of our time giving, it can leave us feeling stretched thin and burned out. That's why we are excited to continue our partnership with BetterHelp, the online therapy platform designed to be convenient, flexible, and on your schedule. Whether you're struggling with stress, anxiety, or just need someone to talk to, a licensed therapist is just a few clicks away. With BetterHelp, you can fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist who specializes in your specific needs. And if you don't feel like it's a good fit, you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. And because we want to help you find balance in your life, we've teamed up with BetterHelp to offer our listeners 10% off your first month. Just go to betterhelp.com/excellence to get started and take the first step toward feeling your best. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/excellence for 10% off your first month. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring the show and helping us all find a little bit more balance in our lives. All right, we are back. This question is from Zachariah. He asks, do you guys have any advice when it comes to achieving more subjective goals? I'm a medical student and I'm passionate about fitness. And when it comes to setting objective goals for those areas, like getting certain grades, lifting a certain amount of weight, it's easier and more logical in terms of breaking those goals down into actionable steps that I can take to achieve them. But I'm having more difficulty when it comes to my more subjective and personal goals, like improving my empathy, being a better supporter of the folks around me, being a better partner, etc. Do you have any advice on how to break these subjective goals down to more concrete and actionable steps?
Zachary's awesome, right? Like that's so cool.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It really like lifts me when I hear things like that, that's the questions that people are trying to do. It's really cool. We have a really amazing listener base. It's more challenging. Like to get it's just like the trust thing we were just talking about. It's way more challenging to be able to measure and put the process in place to build trust than it is SOP or measure your, create KPIs or get your return on investment or whatever it might be. Are we hitting certain growth targets? Like the hard actual numbers. Just like you're in the gym, there's actual hard numbers. Just like your earning potential in your career is a real hard number. Just like your weight or your blood pressure is a real hard number. So how do we do this with the more ambiguous or harder to pin down ones? It's the same process. You just kind of have to you have to figure out what we're going to use for the measurables. You have to go like, these, I believe, are the leading indicators that are going to drive me towards that result. So if we want better, if we want to support the people around you better, okay, it's a great goal. Then, and kudos for Zachary for that. Then what we need to do, Zachary, is figure out, well, what do we believe? You just kind of go right back to like, what are the behaviors that you believe are the things that are going to get you to be the type of person that supports the people around you as well as you possibly could. So that's something like, I'm going to send a text message to the 10 closest people to me every week. Yep. Right. Just like hey, I was listening to this song and thought about you, and just so that they feel like they're supported. Maybe it's I'm going to go to their house and visit them once. Maybe it's not 10 people, maybe now we're talking to 5 people. And it's like, I'm going to visit them out of state once a year. So I'm going to write a handwritten letter. This was during one of our challenges, I think. And I wrote my grandmother a handwritten.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep. 30 Days of Kindness. That was the first
30 Days of Kindness. Yeah. She's still like over the moon about it. So it's awesome. But so the shortcut answer to this is you're going to measure the behaviors. So much like it's actually the more effective way to do any goal anyway. Because if we want to, you talked about like it's easier to do it in the gym. Okay, because you want to be able to do 50 pull-ups. You want to be able to back squat 400 pounds. Well, when you set those goals, the next thing you do is you create the process of which to achieve those goals, which are actionable behaviors. So I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week and work on my pull-ups. I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week and work on my back squat. And when I do that, I'm going to back squat in these waves. I'm going to do 10s, then 8s, then 6s, 4s and 2s, go through it a second time, and then I'll test my warm-up again. All we're doing is creating the process of behaviors by which we want to achieve the goal. And then those behaviors become the measurables. And you're going to measure yourself on the behaviors because it's really hard to know. Like, you're not going to send out a survey to your friends and be like, am I more supportive this quarter than I was last quarter? That makes no sense. So you're just going to go like, I believe that this is the way that I can do this on the most impactful path. And I'm going to measure myself based off my compliance to the program. And what I'm going to say is I'm going to be at home by 6 o'clock every night. My phone is going to have a home and I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to use my computer while I'm home. I'm going to go to every kid's practice and sport and game. I'm going to have a sit down dinner with no screens, no TV, 4 nights a week. I'm going to call my mom, call my dad every week. I'm going to make sure I text my brothers every single week. I'm going to make sure I call Heather the middle of every single day. I'm going to make sure that if I feel a compliment coming on, I don't hold it back. I text them. I tell them. If I have a good thought about somebody, I'm going to say it to them. Like, this is the way, these are the measurables we put in place to see if we can get to our desired end state. It makes no sense just to put up this. I should just take that back. It makes a lot of sense to create the awareness of this is what I want to do. And Zachary's doing that. It's phenomenal. What are the things, we say this in the top of every single podcast. We're here to chase what truly matters. Love it. So we're going to chase what truly matters. Okay, first thing we're going to do is like, what truly matters? Zachary's figured out it's empathy and being a more supportive friend. Like, that's a really elevated position. Phenomenal. Okay, from there, now that we have that awareness, now we have intention. Okay, what is the strategy? What is the steps? What's the schedule? What are the measurables? What are the behaviors? What are we going to do? How are we going to make this happen? And that's the step that Zachary's missing that he can put in is, what are the things? And how do you want to go about seeing if you're on the path? I did this by writing down 20 things that I was tracking on a daily basis. And it was everything. I just listed out a dozen of them, but I listed out those things. I was like, these are the 20 things that are going to move me towards the type of person that I want to be. I'm going to make sure that if I do those things, it's going to, no matter how rocky the seas get, I'm staying centered. I'm staying balanced, because there's going to be times that like I'm just spending a lot more time at work. But if during those times, I'm still calling Heather in the middle of the day, I'm still talking to my mom and talking to my dad every week. I'm still home at 6 o'clock. I'm still doing the family dinners. I'm still going to the kids' practices. Like, I know that I'm going to be okay when this thing kind of washes through. So create those trackables up to the individual, whether they actually literally want to track those or not. I don't think you need to literally track them to have it be impactful. I think you can have a mental map and a mental scorecard, because, people that listen to our podcasts they want to be the best versions of themselves. And once you have the awareness, you create that intention, you go like, okay, like, yeah, it does help to have the pedometer in my thing going like, you've walked 8,800 steps, you need 1,200 more. Like, okay, I got to go. But again, like we said, that goal isn't to have that measurable there all the time for the rest of your life. Eventually you want it to be built into the subconscious. It's kind of like your MO, it's your default programming, that this is the way you operate. I do think it's great to go through a period of challenge that it's tracked. Mm-hmm. That's the reason we do these things. And that might be my suggestion for Zachary is, okay, you have the awareness, let's start with the 5, because 5, you can remember them throughout the day. What are the 5 things that you want to do for any one of these categories? So you go empathy. Okay. So empathy is, listening. It's, being there for people. It's, understanding what they're going through. So, okay, so what are you going to be your behaviors to make sure that those are happening? And then am I doing those on a daily and weekly basis? And we do that. And that's the next one. And we do that. Now we're bringing action. Awareness, intention, action are our 3 pillars. Those are the things that we want to drive everything towards. Do we have awareness of what really matters? Are we chasing what really matters? The intention, do we have the strategies? Do we have the frameworks? Do we have the plans? Do we have the systems in place to make this a part of our lives? And then are we actually doing the thing? So it's nothing new that we haven't talked about before. It's just that it's not as obvious when it's not truly measurable outcomes like we would get in the gym or in business.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple follow-ups. The first one, maybe to that measurability, is I think that the challenge of these kind of subjective goals is that many times there's no finish line. And that can sometimes be the challenge, right? Because if you say like, okay, back squat, even if that finish line moves, because we always know that it will, being more empathetic, there's no point at which I've reached empathy, right? I've got it. And so I think in an odd way, like back to what I was talking about with the paradox of limitations, like you've also got to go into this knowing there's no point at which I get to say I've done it. I'm successful. And so when I go into these subjective goals, it's not so that I can win and check it off the list, right? This is very much kind of to your point. This is very much I want to be the kind of person who does these kinds of things, right? So that's, I think, the first thing that I thought about. And the second one is more of a question, which is, how important is it with these more subjective goals, whether it's empathy, being a better partner, et cetera, where you want to get as specific as possible? Because to me, that's where it gets hard if you're not specific about, well, what do you mean by empathy? Yeah. Because if you're not specific, you don't know, am I getting closer to it or further away? Are these the right actions that are moving me closer to my definition of empathy? Or am I just doing things in the hopes that one day I wake up and feel like I've become more empathetic?
Yeah. Okay. So for the first one, which was the
finish line.
There's no finish line. When you measure behaviors, there is a finish line. It's every day.
Right.
Just like the strength thing, you're going to measure yourself against the process, not the outcome, which is outside of our control. Like you don't get to determine whether you back squat 400 pounds. That's outside your control, but the process is fully inside your control. So you're going to measure yourself against, did you go to the gym? Did you do those lifts? Did you do the sets? Just like you're trying to run a sub 4-hour marathon, whether you actually do that is really outside your control. Well, people are like, what are you talking about? Like if you train, well, living in Boston, if in the marathons in April, there's many times that the weather that it's been in 6 inches of slush, 45 degrees raining with a 20-mile-an-hour headwinds. And everyone's times are 40 minutes slower than they would be normally. It's not ultimately in your control. Like it's just not. What is the training. So the process is, and we want to make sure that that's what we're measuring ourselves against. And goals are really tough when it's what happens with dopamine. But the whole dopamine thing is set up so we'll go do things. It's like you see, like way off in the distance, you see a fruit tree. So you start walking towards it. And as you start walking towards it, AKA taking steps towards your goal, you're going to eat some delicious fruit. The tree gets bigger and you're like, ooh, I'm doing it. I'm actually getting closer. And dopamine comes through your body that says, keep doing this thing. If we don't have any sort of like way to measure this at all, like then that's the reason for these trackables. That's why you do it on a daily basis. It'll keep you on track to doing the thing. It's like, I'm doing this thing. Look at checking the box. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Now, whether you do it truly analog, you do it digital, or you do it in your head, it matters. It can move the needle. And the second part, what was your second one?
Specificity.
Oh yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh.
Specific about, yeah.
We need to define what we're chasing. It's like, that's the reason we want to create the space, create the time so we can really get specific about what this thing is. If you're chasing health, you can get led astray in a big, big way if you don't know what that means. This is where like eating disorders come in. Like it can be hugely, it can be terrible. Like if you chase something without actually knowing what it is you're chasing, it can come out horrifically, terrible. You got to know what it is that we are after. So again, truly, we have to define what that thing, awareness. We need the awareness specifically about what is this thing. So when we go, I want to be a better partner. Okay, what does that look like? Like not just I want to be a better partner. It's I want to be my partner's biggest fan. I want to be the person that wants him or her to succeed more than anyone else in the world. I want to be the person that when I walk in the room, he or she lights up, and vice versa. When they walk in the room, I'm so glad that they're here. I want to be the type of person that like, when I think about my future, it's all about with them, with that person. I want to create it as close to unconditional love as I possibly can. Cool. Now that I have an understanding what that is, what are those behaviors that are going to drive towards that thing?
Yep. Perfect. Love that. Okay. We're going to drop it there.
Nothing's perfect. It's probably really, really far from perfect.
All right. Thank you for your questions out there. If you want to get a question in the queue for either our warm-up or our workout, find me on Instagram. Drop me a DM at PS Cummings, and I promise I will get it onto our list. Ben and I are going to be back in just a minute with a new shout out and a cool down that Ben is very excited to share with me all about who he's taking on his apocalypse team. So stay tuned. Okay, we are back. We've got a quick shout out, and I apologize to this person because in grabbing it off of Instagram where it was sent to me, I forgot to grab your name. So I apologize for that. But this message, I got it. Somebody sent me a note on Instagram. He said, Patrick, I just want to say thanks to you and Ben. In 2017, I started listening to the podcast. Back then, I was not in a good place with my mental health and was completely failing at my life plans. The podcast has done nothing short of changing my life. Today, I'm going into my last year of medical school, and I'm engaged to an incredible man that is on the same path of chasing an excellent life together. I hope to come to CFNE before I move for residency. Thank you both again, truly. So
that invitation is real. Please come to CFNE. I would love to meet you. That's a very cool thing to hear. It's crazy when we started this thing, when was it? 2015,
16. Yeah. Yep.
So yeah. 7-8 years ago, we're like, are we going to run out of things to talk about?
On episode 7, I think we were like, I don't know.
I think it was before that. I think it's like episode 3 or 4. We're like, I don't know, dude.
I think I said all the things I have.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think I'm done.
Else.
I think I'm done. But the fact that it's landing, it's resonating, it's having an impact in any way at all. But to hear when it has a big impact like that, that's really fun to hear.
Great. All right. Our cool down. We have a question from Kyle. He says, create a team of 5 for the apocalypse containing yourself and one person from each of the following categories: athlete, author, actor, and artist.
Okay. You threw this my way last week, and I haven't been able to I now like everything I do, I think about this. It's like who would be and who of your friends would be on the team and who of your coaches and coworkers.
Yeah.
Like it would be.
I'm staying away from that because somebody's gonna be like, why didn't you pick me? And I'm gonna be like, sorry.
Well, we've done this before. We've done it with CrossFit Games athletes, I think.
Yep. I believe we've done that. Yes. Yeah. So I told you before recording, I'm struggling with some of these. So I'm excited to hear yours and I'll give you what I've got. And maybe I'll steal some of yours as well.
Okay.
But I'll let you go first, wherever you want to start.
All right. I'll start with the actor.
Okay.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like I got this question right.
You won.
I think I won this question.
Okay, give it to me.
Bear Grylls.
Bear Grylls. Oh, that's a good one. And you're calling him an actor. That's
of course.
Okay,
he's on TV.
He's on TV.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He's on he's on his like sixth show.
Yeah. All right. I'll give it to you. I'm not arguing.
So maybe that's because I won. That's how I won because I'm like, he's not in Hollywood like that way. Yeah. He's like, he's not trained. But he's an actor.
I'll give it to you. That's a great pick. And I want to say for a little while I was thinking about this question. And it was in my head as the zombie apocalypse, which was not the question. So when I realized this was just the apocalypse.
Oh, I put it in.
It was just the apocalypse.
Oh, I defaulted straight to zombie apocalypse.
I don't know that it matters, but I like your answer because like we're not fighting off zombies here. We just need to survive. And so I'm with you. I just that was a little.
It is the zombie, or it is the
no zombies.
Oh, there's no.
Kyle zombies. did not ask for.
You know what? I don't think I differentiated that in my head until you just said it either which way. Anyway, when I hear apocalypse, I think zombies.
You just think so. All right. So my actor was Bruce Lee, and I'm cheating a little bit because obviously he's not alive. But I was thinking about like actual actors who could be useful, and he was the one that came to my mind. Not only mental, but also he could.
For sure.
So I guess there's no zombies, so I don't know if Bruce Lee.
He'd be a cool guy to hang out with too. That'd be
yeah, that too.
And he would be able to fight off people. Yeah.
That's right.
But Bear Grylls can survive in the wild. Like we find out anything.
I'm with you. That's
eat,
a good
pick. Okay, my next one's
a good pick.
I feel like it's just the right answer as well for the author.
Yeah,
Max Brooks.
I don't even know who that is.
He wrote a best-selling New York Times bestseller, millions of copies sold, of a book called How to Survive the Zombie Apocalypse. Or no, it's the Zombie Survival Guide. That's what it is. The Zombie Survival Guide.
All right, and this was like it's like a legit half joking, but it's a legit like pretend this happened.
No, it's like a legit book. It's like an actual survival guide of like it's like a how-to. And it's like done completely seriously. Obviously it can't be serious but yeah. We talk about this like with our neighbors too. We would go to whose house would we go to? So we decided we go to my house because it's kind of like up the highest. You knock off the porch because zombies can't climb. You put a rope down because they can't. So we can get in and out, but they can't. Mandatory. Everyone got to be able to climb a rope. But the struggle is it's the neighbors that have the garden, so we'd have to be able to get to the garden. So we thought about it.
All right. I like this. All zombie related though. My pick for author is similar to Bear Grylls. And I will admit, I know nothing about this person except that kind of what he does. Stephen Ranella. He's an author. He's written a bunch of books on hunting. And the only reason I know anything about him is because Ryan Holiday talks about him a lot. And he's got like a really popular YouTube show. I think his podcast called Meat Eater. It's very popular. Again, I know I've consumed none of his content except that I know that this is what he does. And so I figured a hunter would be him and Bear Grylls. Like that's we're good there.
That's a good team. Yeah.
All right. And after this, I'm a little bit lost. So I'm very excited to hear who you've got. For
artist. I went Leonardo da Vinci.
Okay.
Reason being because he was like a true Renaissance man. He was like, not only did he like, very, very smart. He was like part painter, part sculptor, but then also equal parts like architect, engineer, scientist, right? Like, so
that's a great pick.
I feel like could like help. Like you need people that can help. Like that's like who can help in their own way. And in terms of like figuring stuff out, I feel like for an artist, he could really help.
It's a great call. I didn't think of him. All right. I don't have anything for artists, but let's go to athlete.
Okay. So if I have those guys, if I have Bear Grylls, Leonardo, Max Brook, the zombie guy. Then my athlete would be my wife, Heather, because I'd want her to be there.
That's a good pick. Man,
she's a CrossFit Games athlete, right?
No, that's an awesome answer.
She's done Ironmans, and
that's not a wrong answer.
That really is true. Like,
points.
Because like none of those guys am I going to be like best friends with, right? Like none of those guys are going to be like, so they're
going to eat you if they have to.
Exactly right. And I need Heather on my side to make sure that we outnumber the other team. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I like the way you think. Okay, but if Heather, if that's too much of a cop-out answer, if it can't be Heather, I have backup answers for these two. So like for the actor, the backup answer would be Chris Helmsworth.
Yeah.
Because he's like,
which superhero was he?
He was no, he was Thor.
Okay.
Yep. But he did that Limitless show.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
So he's like, he's not just like all show and no go. He's like, he's like a functional dude and willing to do the hard stuff. And he seems like a really cool guy to hang out with as well.
Yeah.
And he's just,
he might not eat you.
And I just want to stare into those blue eyes. Like,
I love that you have a B team. You got a B team of Apocalypse. All right. Any other athlete?
It would be Cameron Haynes. I think that's his name. Cameron Haynes. Yeah. Who's like the bow hunter guy.
Yeah. Good call.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like he
and Steven Ranella are probably friends.
Yeah. Right. Yep. So he's like a badass bow hunter. He's, kills elk and actually in a zombie apocalypse, like a bow is the best weapon to have because you don't run out of ammunition. You can get your arrows back.
I think the overriding thought I had while failing, but thinking about this was that I would be the least useful member of whatever apocalyptic team I had. They'd be like, this guy is slowing us down.
We just fatten you up to eat you later on. You're not even heavy enough to be tasty.
No, I know. I'm completely, they would ditch me at the first possible, river turn. All right, that's all we got. That was fun. Thank you. Thank you everybody out there for listening. Thank you for your questions. Namely, again, find me on Instagram, PS Cummings. Drop me a question, a thought, a note. We are clearly building many of these episodes around your questions, so keep them coming. Ben and I will be back next week for another episode of Chasing Excellence.